Hello, everybody. Happy New Year from Missouri Valley Conference. We'd like to welcome you in to another edition of the MVC Hoops Shootaround. We are joined once again by our MVC Hoops analyst, Adam Immenecker. Adam, how are things going for you?
Things are great. How are you, Derek?
I'm doing well. The New Year's here, and it's time, believe it or not, to get the conference season kicked off as we have this week. And this weekend, we've already got a couple games on the NBC TV network and on ESPN Family Networks coming up. Want to get your thoughts on a couple of contests. First of all, on Saturday, January 4th, Indiana State at Evansville on ESPNU at 7. Jake Odom and the Sycamores currently sitting at 9-3 in the conference as we tape this today. Evansville coming in there with DJ Ballantyne. What do you see as the keys to the game for these two teams in this contest?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. One quick note, Derek, before we go there. You just talked about moving into 2014. So far, the MVC in the non-conference, 75-49 in the non-conference to start off this 2013-2014 season, including 49-11 at home. So it's been a pretty strong start for the MVC, and Indiana State is one of those teams that's really lived up to those preseason expectations. You mentioned them starting out 9-3, and they do it. You talked about Jake Odom. They do it because of Jake Odom. They're one of the top 10 teams in the NCAA in field goal percentage, shooting over just over 50%. And it's Odom that's leading them in points per game, leading them in rebounds per game, and assists. He's really creating so much for his team. And the other thing is, because of that, creating those great shot opportunities, that type of ball movement is infectious. So Indiana State's done a really good job of that. They had one uncharacteristic loss earlier in the season to St. Louis University, but other than that, they're three losses, two of them are only by 1 point. So they've played really well, and they do it with ball movement. They do it with hard-nosed play and defense. Now on the other side, you talked about Evansville. Evansville was a little bit of a surprise early on, got out to a quick 5-0 start, but have since lost 6 of 7. So they're a team that's reeling a little bit. I think going into their conference season, they're looking for a little bit of a momentum change, just a different feel, mix it up a little bit. DJ Ballantyne is a guy that's a dynamic scorer. He can do things offensively in a lot of different ways, but he takes a lot of shots to get those points. That's what they need him to do, but sometimes that's good for your team. Sometimes that makes it a little more difficult because you have to shoot yourself out of slumps. But look for Evansville to really try to pressure Indiana State in the half court, play that really solid half-court defense that we're used to seeing from Marty Simmons. But I like Indiana State in this game. They've been playing really well as of late.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw it that game you mentioned, Indiana State and St. Louis. A lot of fouls sort of hampered the Sycamores' defensive consistency in the game. But
Yep.
as of right now, it looks like that win for St. Louis may turn out to be their best non-conference win. So we'll see how that holds up as the season goes on.
Yeah, good.
All right, moving on to Sunday, January 5th. Northern Iowa at Wichita State. The Shockers currently right now 7-8 in respective polls, 13-0. One of the 8 as we tape this. One of 8 undefeated teams in the country. Everyone knows the story about the Shockers right now. Northern Iowa trying to find some consistency of their own. What do you think? What happens when the Panthers and the Shockers get together?
You know, it's funny talking about Wichita State. Everyone had them preseason number 1 in the conference, unanimous pick. But did we know they were this good? Sitting at January 1st, they'd be 13-0 and one of only, I believe it's 7 unbeatens now in the country. That's really big credit and kudos go to Greg Marshall and his coaching staff over there. They've done a great job, especially following up the Final Four run. Those kids are hungry. If you watch those games, they play incredibly hard. They rebound the basketball well. They deserve to be ranked where they are, to be 7th, 8th, 9th in the top 10 in the top 25 rankings is really impressive for their team. But you know, it's interesting as we're going into this conference season. Once you get with opponents that are a little more familiar with you and that you're a little more familiar with, it's a little more difficult. And when you talk about a team like you and I, the Panthers haven't exactly had those headlining wins that they've had in years past. They beat Virginia Commonwealth and, sitting around 500. They've been kind of going back and forth early on in the season. But they've had some heartbreaking losses. You talk about an Iowa State game, a team in Iowa State that's been ranked pretty much all year, one of those other 7 unbeatens that you and I played really tough. They were up 15 in the first half and let that lead dwindle as the game went on before eventually losing in overtime. So if anybody can do it, UNI is going to be a really good test for this Wichita State team. But I really like this matchup because of the contrast in styles. Wichita State is a big and a bruising team, a team that can beat you from the outside, beat you from the inside. They're really the whole package. And UNI is kind of that a little bit slower, methodical. They're going to beat you up. They're going to keep chipping away, and hit timely and big shots. So I really like this matchup. I think that's going to be a fun one on a Sunday afternoon.
Absolutely. We'll look forward to that one on the NBC TV network, Fox Midwest, Fox Kansas City, Fox Indiana. Check your local listings, folks, for that game on Sunday at 1 o'clock Central. And finally, I want to touch on two teams that have sort of been the surprise of the leagues thus far. First of all, the Drake Bulldogs, your alma mater, picked at the bottom portion of the league, but they finished up with a 9-3 non-conference record. And I mean, what more is there to say? They're one of the big surprises of the Valley so far.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I think a lot of credit goes to Coach Giacoletti and his staff to try to change the culture a little bit of this Drake Bulldog team. Not a lot of high expectations because they didn't have a lot of returning players. Last year they lost Ben Simons and Jordan Clark, two of the guys that were really the leaders of that team. But what they've done this year, you look at their 9 wins, they've beaten all the teams that they should beat. Any game that was a 50-50 game, or maybe you would have Drake give them a little bit of edge, they've won those games. Their 3 losses, New Mexico State and St. Mary's, 2 of them were NCAA tournament teams from last year. The other one was Iowa, who's ranked right now and was the NIT champion. So when you look at those 3, those aren't necessarily games you would expect them to win anyway. So they've done a really good job of being consistent, taking care of business, winning the games they're supposed to win, and they've been balanced. Other than Richard Carter, who's had a great start to his senior season, averaging just about 20 points a game, everybody else has stepped up at their respective times. So you've seen balance in scoring from the starters, balance off the bench, and when you're playing 8 or 9 guys and you get contributions from 1 or 2 of them every single night, that helps the team, and I think that's what we've seen out of the Bulldogs this year. And the other one you mentioned, Illinois State, after a really tough start to the year, lost 4 of their first 5. They've won 7 of their last 8. So they've turned the corner and have been playing really well, and really have more so maybe than any other team quality wins. They beat Northwestern, which was their first win. They have a top 25 win after beating Dayton here a few weeks back, and they've also beat a Big East team in DePaul. So they've done a really good job of turning the corner after the tough start to the year to try to get themselves with a little bit of momentum going into the conference season. But it's really been for them spearheaded by Deshaun Knight. He's had a fantastic year. We've seen him newcomer of the week, I believe, 3 times already this year. So he's kind of cleaning up with those awards, and it's deservedly so. He leads his team in points, leads his team in assists, and his second in rebounding. Not bad for a guy that's 6'1", maybe, depending on what listing you're looking at. But the scary thing is he's only going to get better for Dan Muller. So I like the way Illinois State's playing, and of course for my alma mater, I like the way Drake's playing as well.
All right, well, the road starts now. It's going to be a long journey until we get to March and Arch Madness, but the Valley season is here, and we're going to have a fun ride going through those twists and turns of conference play.